Humanity isn't a race. It's not people or a person. It's something you ask yourself. Humanity is a question. Will you give? Will you share? Will you play the game fair? Will you sacrifice? Will you go beyond, above? Most importantly, will you put your trust in love and only love? We can try to answer the question of humanity on our own, but without faith in each other, we will never find it. We'll spend our lives vainly seeking alone humanity for you. And nobody better to talk about it than Yankur. Ankur, over to you and tell us more about the work you are doing.
Okay. So thank you, Sanjini. First of all, I would like to mention that if there are 100 people who were helping each other in these testing times, in that case, I would be the 100th or the 99th person, because there were a lot of people who were doing much, much, much more than what I did. So I am no one in front of them, because I have seen people working at ground level and doing a lot of things. Now, if you will ask me what caused me, or I mean, what inspired me to do something about it, so I was also COVID positive. And the time I was COVID positive, I realized that I am fortunate enough that I have almost all the resources which I need to recover from it. But there are a lot of people who are not having even basic means to, I mean, meet their ends meet. So it was at that moment I realized that we should do something about it. And that was the trigger point with which I took that initiative. Though there were already certain groups which were there on WhatsApp, few of Toastmasters group and other groups, but I was observing that the problem with those groups were that if anyone is asking for query, there were a lot of people who wanted to help and they were sharing information, but that information was not relevant. As you know that there are certain characteristics of information. It should be time bound, it should be relevant, and it should give us something with which we can get some benefit. So if the characteristics of information are not meeting the expected requirement, so no matter what you are sharing in a WhatsApp group, it will be of no help. And there were people as well who were just, as we all know, that they were just there to forward one message to other and like that. So I felt that need that if before sharing any kind of information, if we can validate it from our end, it would be great, because in that case we can help, we can really help a person in need. Otherwise, we are just bombarding him with a lot of information, and we are making his task to find a lead or find the resources which he or she is looking for a bit difficult for him or her. So it was at that moment when I realized, and I was not aware of that how we will be doing it. It was just an idea. We were not sure of this fact that how we will be operating it. But then we decided, okay, let's give it a shot. And it was at that moment when I asked few volunteers who can help me with the verification thing. I knew if someone is forwarding me a contact number of someone and mentioning that, okay, this person is having all these medicine, so there is a possibility that the number which has been shared in the WhatsApp group could be a fraudster, and he might ask for some money in advance. And because of this situation, there are people who might even pay in advance, and that was something which was happening at that time. So we thought about it, and we started looking for volunteers who can help us. So that was just the idea, but eventually we got certain people who were there to help us, and that's how we formed a group and we started verifying leads. That's how it started. Initially it was a bit difficult for us as well. We were making a lot of mistakes, and we were not sure about how we should then share that verified information with others. So even gradually we made mistake, we learned, and then we created an Excel sheet which we shared with everyone. And I'm glad that Haritika and Samir are also there with us in this meeting. They were the one who were helping us. So we divided our teams into three groups. One team was responsible to procure all the leads which has been shared on various social media platforms. Then another team was there to ensure that, okay, let's verify whether these are the genuine supplier of the required goods or not, and then there was another team who were sharing that information with others. So that's how we divided our team. And after that, we did it for Delhi geography, we did it for Gurgaon geography. Similarly, we tried to create a group for Kolkata as well. Anirban is a part of that. So that's how we started working for it. Because we know that it is not possible for us to go to the ground level and check each and everything. But we realize that, okay, whatever we can do in our individual capacity, it is that time and we should do. And it is our payback time to the society. So that's how we came up with this thing about the verification aspect of it. That was one thing. And our team, they were very hardworking. They were sharing leads. They were using their network connections, and that's how we were able to help few people. And all credit goes to all the people who were there in our team and who were making continuous calls. So that was about the verification part. Sinjini, you are on mute.
All right. So I completely hear you that there is a team, but at the same time, we all know the leadership is what brings everything together. And I think you have played to be very fair, and this is not at all an exaggeration. Everybody, there are many people who want to help with money, with food, or with whatever resources and networks they have. And there are many, many more people who need the help, or even the fear of I might need help. I may not be needing it right now, but the anticipation and the apprehension is there. What was really, your gift, I would say, was to become that anchor in one place where all these people could come and offer, and all these people could come and get. And that was a huge role you played. And it's not really about, how it's not really an interview where I could go on about, the work you are doing, and there is no end to the awe I feel for that. I wanted to ask more about, when somebody needs help, there is a fear which is in each one of us at the moment. I mean, it might happen to a few statistically, but everybody else is at least exposed to the possibility, and everybody is panicking so much that even at the slightest hint of a symptom, uh, before we even get the test done, there is a tendency in us to try to say, can we block a bed, can we get some cylinders, can we get, to put everything to hold. And it may sound like a bad word, but the thing is that everybody is operating from a space of panic, and there is no right or wrong. I mean, of course, I'm not talking about people who are corrupted, but I'm talking about people who are just fearful, and they're operating from a space of fear. What you did was a huge task in management, leadership, and also to be able to give people help. It's, the timeliness was very important. I mean, I have been keeping on hearing stories about how it was just delayed by a few hours, and it was not required anymore, and how it was there in time, and how it saved people's life, like from the brink. So if you could tell me a few real life, I know it is hard. There has been such a intense emotional journey through it. But if you could give us a little bit of insider view of, how, what were the learnings, and what should people keep in mind when they approach for help, when what information should they keep handy if they require X today, but they might need Y tomorrow. You have by now gathered a bit of a technical knowledge around what information is required, like, blood group or whatever, like, locality, food. So what is it people need to know so that they feel that they're in good hands?
Okay, Sinjini, if it is about hospital beds or any kind of thing, so frankly speaking, it was very difficult for us as well to give any verified leads. Because even if there was one or two verified leads, they were getting occupied in just fractions of seconds. Because there were long queues in front of hospital, and people were waiting over there just to get admission into the hospital. So in the beginning itself, we acknowledge this fact that we will be trying our level best if we can disseminate the information and share it with everyone. That if there is any lead with regards to hospital beds, but we made it very clear that this is something which is not in our hand, because situation was very worse around 15-20 days back. But what we did was, there is one example of, great Hemkund Foundation, a great NGO. So we got certain queries, and the case was not as much as critical as it had been with other people, but they were looking for a place where they can get the oxygen supply for their patient. So it was, I got that call around 1 a.m. in the morning, and they were asking for if there is any bed, or if there is, is there any place where they can go and get some sort of oxygen for the patient. So it was at that moment I recommended them that, okay, there is Hemkund Foundation. They have recently opened their operations in Gurgaon sector 56. So what you can do is, you can please, I can share their number with you, and you please have a word with them. They might be asking you a few details, and if everything goes right, they will be giving you the bed. So all they were asking was a doctor prescription and the oxygen level of the patient. So that was about the oxygen beds. Apart from that, if I have to mention, there were certain instances where we literally felt very helpless, because we got one query from Meerut, the Baghpat district, and the family was looking for a ICU for their family member. The boy was just 22-year-old, and they mentioned it to us that we are ready to spend all the money that we have with us. Please arrange one bed for us. And at that time, we tried our level best, but it was too late. So there were a lot of, similar kind of instances where we all felt very helpless. Apart from that, there were certain good instances as well, where we were in a situation to help others. So these things were there. So basically, if it is about during that time, because now it is not the same situation which was there around 20-25 days back. But now if anyone needs the oxygen refill, it just they need the doctor prescription and their oxygen cylinder with them, and they can get the cylinder filled along with the Aadhaar card, their details. So
Yes.
these are the only thing which are required. With regards to groceries, so groceries is something which we started around 10 days back, when I realized that most of the information that we are sharing with everyone, we are sharing those information with those people who have access to internet, who have access to smartphone, who have access to WhatsApp. But it was at that moment when I realized that there are still a lot of population who don't even have a mobile phone, and the labor class of our country, they are the badly hit in this time. So we decided that, okay, now it's time that we should do something about it. So it was at that moment when we started collecting from our pocket money or from our savings. So there were 3-4 people who joined together, and then we go for the donation drive, wherein we collected the basic essential item like atta, rice, pulses, and all those things. And later on, there were a lot of other people as well who came to know that, okay, Ankur, and other people, they are doing this kind of activity, so let us contribute. So there were other people as well who helped us financially, because they said that we can't go at the ground level, but that is what we can do. At that time, one thing we also mentioned that because in these times there were a lot of people who were misusing the funds that they were receiving by donation as well. So what we did was, we asked all those who were ready to help us that, if possible, please send the groceries and not the money to us, because that will bring more transparency, and even we will feel bit relaxed that, okay, it is the grocery which we have to manage and not the money aspect of it. But in case, okay, if there is someone who was finding it difficult, so in that case we also accepted money. It was about that. If it is about, asking for help at these time, I must say that no one should be afraid to ask for help. If anyone is looking for help, that person just should put a message that, okay, I need help. Because if I'm in help and I'm not mentioning it to anyone, then how will other person will come and help me? So that is the basic thing which everyone should acknowledge. And I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, and there are a whole lot of questions I have in mind, and there is a whole lot going on. But as you mentioned, the 22-year-old, I remember seeing that case on Facebook also. I mean, I have a whole lot of questions. Some of them are more practical, some of them are around, your emotional management, not just your, but your and your teams, because you are seeing these upfront. The only way to get get engaged is to become emotionally vulnerable. And you are, of course, exposed to this situation where it was near hit and near miss. What are you doing to keep fine? You have yourself got positive, you have gone through that journey yourself, and there are many people who are struggling, of course. How are you, what message, or what kind of understanding you want other people to have? Because I'm sure many of us, including myself, there is a parallel feeling of how much can we take on our emotions, on our conscience, and there is it's very intense. It's more than what we have ever seen in our lives, our parents have seen. And somewhere there is also this inclination to shut ourselves off, because we cannot, first you take care of yourself, wear your seatbelt first. And there's so much of disaster that at many point psychologists are coming around and saying that, stop watching the news, don't follow social media, don't. But of course, if all the people who are healthy stop everything, then where will the rest of the people who need help go? And people who are healthy today can need the help tomorrow. So what understanding would you want to share with everybody, that how to detach emotionally, how to move on, as well as how to be of help and not shut down?
Okay. Sanjani, first thing first, I won't be exaggerating the time I'll be mentioning it. But frankly speaking, when I see someone crying in front of me, it becomes very difficult for me to, handle that situation. And I'll do anything to ensure that that person is not crying anymore. So, that is something which is inbuilt in me. Whenever I see someone begging on the street, or someone not even able to, just arrange his food or something like that. So it completely wrenches my heart. So even if I'm having 100 rupees in my pocket, there is a possibility that I might give 90 to him. So I know and I understand this fact that many people will say that this is, not a sane thing that you are doing, and this is impractical. No one should do that. But maybe this is the case with me. If I'm having 100 rupees in my pocket, I will give 90 to him, and 10 I'll keep 10 to myself. Talking about last 20, 30 days, there were certain instances uh, wherein even I felt very sad, and even I felt a bit vulnerable. But at that time, I just mentioned, I just told myself that this is not a time to mourn over a death, or to be sad. This is the time when you have to save as many lives as possible. It is just like a war-like situation wherein you can't even cry. If you will cry, there is a possibility that enemy will shoot you. You are there in a war, and you have to kill the enemy. So that was the situation. So even if I wanted to cry, I stopped myself and I thought about, okay, forget about it, let's focus on the next request, or let's focus on next person whom we can help. So that's how I managed. And that is what I communicated to, one of my friend as well, Gagan Jolie. So he was a bit sad after that one particular incident, and he felt very much helpless that there is nothing in our control or everything like that. So I said that we don't have time to discuss about all these things. We have to just try our level best and try to help as many people as possible, because that's the only thing we can do. If you want to cry, or even if I have to cry, we will do that thing, but after 20, 25 days, or after when everything becomes normal. So this is what we did.
Yes. But I hope you are also taking care of your own health, not physically but mentally, because there's so much that you are taking on. And maybe there is a bit of, I don't want to, of course, dig into that, because there's no point. Just as you said, the time that you might spend crying, maybe that 5 minutes is precious, and instead if you put it elsewhere, it can save another 5 lives. And that is exactly what you are doing at the moment. And that you, I'm sure you realize that, and that is exactly how you're operating. But do take care of your own mind, in lack of a better word. You tell me, one very practical tip I want the listeners to get away is that if they get positive. Of course, people are having oximeters these days at home, and there is a normal, thermometer, oximeter, like they are maintaining a kind of a tracker, etc., etc. There are certain times when they might or might not need certain things, and things are, the situation is changing quite dramatically. Like people might be doing fine over 2-3 days and thinking that it's almost like an asymptotic case, whereas on the fourth day it goes down or goes up, whatever it is. I'm sure you know it very closely from many experiences now. How should people reach out to you, number one, most important, and what should they reach out to you with? Because oftentimes, if for example somebody makes a call to you and says I need this, but then you ask something like, where, what time, what is, so you can rank order the priority. If you have got 10 requests, what do you need to know so that you don't have to do a to and fro and 5-7 phone calls to get all the information? What is the information they need to keep handy? At what point should they reach out, or how to reach out? And thirdly, very importantly, how not to get duped. I know you and your team are doing a whole lot of verification validation calls, and it's not easy. It's not as straightforward as to pick up the phone and to say, are you the right guy or not? It's not like that. Of course, there is a different language of trying to make out if this is a genuine case or a fake case. What should people keep in mind so that they lose minimum time in this frictional transactional thing, and they can get help as soon as they want?
Okay. So it depends upon what they are looking for. If it is about the requirement of basic information, like where they should go to get their cylinder refilled, that is a completely different thing. In that case, they just have to ask us the location, and we will be providing that location to them.
And
If
how
it
do
is
they reach
about
you? How do they reach you? I mean, that is also a question. Like how
okay.
you know
So the only thing we did was all our team, we shared all the leads that we had with us, and everyone in our contact list were aware of this fact that, okay, these are certain people who are active and they are volunteering. So that was the only thing we did. Apart from that, we didn't have any kind of website or anything, because we were not in a situation to ask certain expert to come and build a website for us. So all of it was working through Facebook and WhatsApp. These were the only tools by which many people, sharing information with each other. So if I'm sharing certain status about availability of oxygen cylinder, so the people in my contact list will get to know, okay, so Ankur is someone who is having certain leads about oxygen. So if their friends ask them about oxygen thing, they will be sharing my contact number. So that's how it works. And there is one thing which I learned around 3-4 years back, which was about 6 degrees of separation, which talks about if I have to reach to Barack Obama, I just have to have a word with the 5 contact, and I'll be able to reach him. So that was the principle I used over here as well. That if there is someone who is coming to me with certain kind of requirement, all I have to do is to find those 5 contacts, with the help of which I will be able to help that person in need. And so that was the way how we were. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, it was our friends only who were sharing the contact number of each other, that okay, if there is this kind of requirement, you can ask it first. Now coming to the question of not getting due, first and foremost, whenever someone is telling you that okay, that person is ready to supply you the basic if it is about the requirement of oxygen cylinder, or if it is about the requirement of certain injections or certain medicine, and if that person is asking for an advance, so you should there should be an alarming bell which should raise in your head that okay, there is a possibility that you are about to get due.
So don't give
Because if there
advance.
is any genuine supplier, that person will say,
So not to
that is
give
one thing which
advance.
I would at least personally say, don't give it. Yeah, because there is a possibility that the moment you will make the transaction, that number will be switched off. That is one thing. But at the same time, there is a possibility that even certain genuine supplier might be asking you for certain advance, so that they can book certain injections, certain medicine, or certain equipment for you. So what you have to do is first, if someone is asking you for an advance, there is a 50% probability that that person might be a fraud. That is one thing. Now what you have to do is, even if that person is asking for you in advance, you should ask him about his location, locality, and you should counter question him. Okay, I'll make you the payment. Tell me your location where you will be providing it, and ask him to get the if he has certain registered number of his organization, or a place of business or something like that. Ask him all those details, because if a person is a genuine supplier, he will not shy away by sharing all those information. For example, there were 3 4 people who were asking for advance to supply the oxygen cylinder. So I said, ki, okay, I'll be providing, I'll be making you the advance payment, but tell me where are you located? That person said, I am from Shadra. I said, oh, Shadra is just near to my place. It's just 5 minutes walking distance. Tell me where should I have to come, and I'll come. So you have to be a bit conscious. You have to use your skepticism and your questioning mind, and you should be following up with other questions as well. And it was at that moment he said that no, there is lockdown. I said that don't you worry, I have good contacts with police as well, so no one will be stopping me. And then he dropped my call. So
Okay.
by doing this exercise only, you can do that. The problem is with most of the patients and their attendants, because if the patient is in dire need of something, so attendants will do no matter what a person will ask them to do. And at that time, because they are in such a vulnerable state that even for them it is very difficult. They are ready to, I mean, spend all the money that they have, their entire life saving, just to save that patient. And it was at that moment our responsibility to not lose our calm, and we must not be in a state of panic. So whenever anyone was in any dire need of anything, one thing which I personally advise whenever I get that opportunity, to please don't panic. And there are a lot of people who will be there to help you, but if you will make any decision in that state of panic, there is a possibility that you will be that someone will fraud you or someone will scam you.
Right. So you have to appear like, not appear, but actually get into a very calm and practical mind while dealing with these people, because there is no space for emotion in trying to deal with, get the resources. You have to be very, very, like, realistic and skeptic. The other thing is that,
So there were certain pointers as well. Sorry, I mentioned after, I mean, making 100 or something calls in my initial days. So making advance payment was one thing. Second time, there is a possibility that if you need something, and I got certain lead, and I'm sharing with you that, because below it, someone has written it that this is verified lead. So that doesn't mean that that lead is verified. If I'm sharing you some lead, that would only be verified if I have personally availed the services from that supplier, or someone who is in my immediate contact has availed the services from that supplier. If it is about 5 or 6 people, it would just be a WhatsApp forward, even if they have written verified under it. So these things are also there.
right. So there is no foolproof way, but it is to reach out to somebody who is, say, for example, you and your team are kind of centralizing a lot of information. So instead of making calls to many numbers, it is a good idea to reach out to one of the team members and to, have something directly from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
That is a very helpful idea, because frankly, at the moment, of course, 20-25 days back, we saw all those numbers floating, and after that, some serious and good authentic distributors were also saying that, should we pick up the validation calls, or should we really pick up the real patient's call? So
Yeah.
that is also, the downside, but there is no right or wrong answer. But it is a good idea to have a centralized space to, where who we can trust. The other thing on the other side of the spectrum is, again, without any judgment, the thing is that many people, of course, they are themselves in such a, vulnerable is also a lucid word. I mean, they are actually, standing at the brink of losing or getting somebody back from the mouth of death. And when they have used the resources, some of these resources are recyclable, or, of course, the oxygen cylinder, concentrators, but the release and the collecting back, or, giving it, passing it on, or, I remember you shared this very lovely, I mean, it really made me stop, and I had tears in my eyes when somebody said that, my patient has died, but that also means a bed is free. Make sure somebody uses it. I mean, I don't know if there is a right word to capture that person's nobility, but what can people do, or what do you want people to know about releasing the resources?
Ma'am, it all comes down to one word, which is empathy. If someone is feeling that, if they have something which is in excess, they must share it with others, because that's how world will work. If I'll hold all the thing, if I have resources, but I'm anticipating that there is a possibility I might not be well tomorrow or day after tomorrow, that's why I'm keeping a stock of 100 medicine or 100 injection. That won't work.
Right.
So it is all about empathy and uh, love thy neighbor, as people say that you have to treat them not just as your neighbor but as a part of family.
Mm.
So that is something which will only work, because had that been the case, all the rich would have had all the resources. Uh, just to be, I've been a bit conservative in their approach that okay, let's not think about others, let's just think about ourselves only. And I've seen a lot of examples. This is some okay. I have one recent example. So in this last 20-25 days, I also got a chance to work with a lot of NGOs as well. And one NGO is by a chartered accountant only. His name is Gurjap Singh. So he's running an NGO with the name of Connecting the Dots. He was in need of an oxygen cylinder, and I had a friend of mine who said that, okay, I have one excess cylinder. What you can do is you can share it with him. So there were a lot of good people as well who were helping each other without thinking whether they will be getting anything in return or not. And that's how this world works, because there is always good in bad and bad in good. So that is what I have learned.
No, absolutely. So, however, people, when they're actually, maybe one moment they're chasing for an ambulance, the next moment they're chasing for an oxygen cylinder at home because they cannot get the patient to the hospital. And the next moment, they're chasing for a spot in the crematorium ground. I mean, very, very drastically put, but that is the reality. And you know it much more closely than I do. And given that situation, many of them are not even in that state to think that, okay, I need to return certain resources which I have hoarded. So I mean, I just wanted, I mean, it is really not a question answer, but I really wanted to use this opportunity because I'm talking to you, and there are so many people who have directly benefited from you, that whoever is listening or whoever would be listening to this, I mean, giving back the resources are just, it's like, breathing in, breathing out. We have to constantly cycle and recycle and rotate it, otherwise, you would also be responsible for another round of somebody going away because they didn't get resource on time. And just to give an example which I just gave, somebody who actually said that, I lost somebody, I think his father. And
No, it was her mother. I know that girl from last 4-5 years. She's from Delhi only, and she was the one who mentioned that what WhatsApp message in the group that my mother just passed away, and she mentioned the name of the hospital in Haldwani, and she said that there must be one bed now, which is vacant.
right, I mean, frankly, again, to borrow your words, in a warlike situation, we have to pick up the sword from the dead soldier and pick it up and use it. So I think that is perhaps one of the analogies, as heartless as it sounds. The other thing I want to ask you, Ankur, is that there are so many people who want to help. And there are many people who, again, it may sound a little, again, judgmental, or not judgmental, but, of course, we have very different opinions of people. But the thing is, so many of us go abroad and settle down, and our older parents are back home, or, the entire NRI community specifically, I would say, I think they're wringing their hands. I know many people, including my own very close circle, to everybody around, all of us know, who have no way of doing anything but actually sitting and worrying. And if required, then to, ask for, food delivery, etc., etc. How, but of course, they have the money, and they are very willing to share the resource that they can offer. And oftentimes, of course, we are skeptic about what is the right place to give money to, what is the right way, etc., etc. So is there any way you can help people? Like you said, you are asking people to order grocery, or if they cannot, then give money, etc., etc. But is there any constructive way that you want to, give away, like you want to share with people, through which they can come back to you and they can help your efforts?
Okay. Not just me, but there are a lot of, NGOs who are working very hard for the cause. So one way is absolutely yes, they can donate the money to that foundation. Or unfortunately, because of the red tapeism and custom rules, so even if they want to send concentrator and all those machines, that might take a lot of time. But yes, sending money is one thing that they can do. Apart from that, the problem with us is that as of now we are just thinking about current situation, the current pandemic situation in India. But one thing that we are missing is post pandemic India. And my main challenge, or something which I'm thinking from last 4 5 days, is about, or maybe more than 1 week, is about strengthening post pandemic India. Because next problem which we will be facing is the economic divide, and the gap would be too high. And as we know that we should learn from our history, or the mistakes that we have made, so it is time that we have to think about, okay, what are the challenges that we will be facing after this pandemic thing. We know that situation is bit stable in Delhi as of now, as it was 1 month back. But at the same time, we have to also think about what were the reasons which caused so many problems. And we have to think about what are the things that we can do so that same thing does not repeat in the future as well. That is one thing. At the same time, we have to think about all the problems, or all the repercussions of this pandemic, which we will have to face, and we have to be prepared for it. For example, there are many children who have lost their families. So what is it that we can do for them? So there was, certain people who asked me, and with my little understanding, I said that, okay, Kailash Satyarthi is one person whom I can trust, and he is running this NGO called Bachpan Bachao Andolan. So if you want to contribute money, you can contribute to them. If you want to be a volunteer with them, that is one more thing that you can do. So we have to think from various perspectives. That was just one thing. Then we have to think about the education. Uh, from last 2 years, I'm not sure how many people, how many children got the education which they would have got had they gone to school. Because of this online format, there has been a bad impact, or I say that there are a lot of things which children have missed out in last 1 or 2 years. So we have to think about that thing, and that thing as well. And if we have to be we have to prepare for future as well, because as of now, even in our education system, most of the things that we are doing is just to get a job. We have to think about entrepreneurial skills as well. So there are a lot of things that we have to think about for our country, because considering its population, the only resource we have is the human capital, because we don't have enough natural resource. The biggest resource that we have is human capital. And if we are not utilizing human capital, in that case it will be a liability or a burden on us only. Because if people are not educated, there will be a problem for us. And there, because of that, there would be unemployment, because they are not educated and they don't have the required skill to get a job. And in turns, it would be a very difficult situation for India as well. So I understand that, yes, we are, if it is about the NRIs, so they should think about, because they are in developed countries, they are in developed nations, so they should pass on their know-how or technical skills. And I must say that they should watch the movie Swadesh. That's the best thing that they can do,
Hmm.
because it is at that time when we need all our high functioning brain back in India, because there has been a lot of brain drain.
So well said. Thank you so much. There are a number of questions. I can read out Megha's question. Or Megha, would you want to come and ask the question yourself? If you unmute yourself and please ask.
Thanks, Jimmy and Ankur. I'm based in Bangkok and my parents are in New Delhi. And I also got caught up in the whole panic cycle when my relatives started to fall sick in the last 1 month. And I think one of the key questions is that we tend to stock up, like you said, or hoard on certain supplies, like be it concentrator or oxygen cylinder, because especially being outside, we really worry that if our parents are on their own and even the relatives can't come and help them. So for example, we would try to stock up on a concentrator or cylinder, but now it's sitting idle, for example. So is there a way that we can share these resources? And even as preventative measures, what is right to stock up on and what is not necessary to stock up on?
Okay.
How do you make that decision?
So Mega, answering your first question, yes, there are ways. If you have oxygen cylinder or oxygen concentrator, there are ways by which you can, share it with other people. So there are certain NGOs, and I know a few of them. Like Connecting the Dots is one, which has been done by one of my friends. So he is doing the same thing. He's asking people who are having oxygen concentrator which are not in use. So he is collecting all those oxygen concentrator, and he is sharing with the people in rural India, like Bihar. Biharganj was the district, and even in Devban, Muzaffarnagar, all those towns as well, where these things are not available at that moment. So yes, there are a lot of NGOs who are doing that work. Now, coming to your second question, what are the things that we should hoard or we should reserve like that? So first thing is that I won't judge even a single person if they are hoarding something or if they are keeping a stock of be it medicine or food or anything, because I completely understand it is human instinct. They want to save themselves first, then they will think about others. So it completely depends upon person to person. And frankly speaking, because I'm not a doctor, I'm just a finance professional. So it would be great if we can, ask this question to someone who is currently working closely with the COVID patient. That what are the things which would be essential? But yes, for example, basic things like thermometer for measuring the temperature, then oximeters. These are the basic things which everyone should have. At the same time, many a times I have witnessed that people are also not concerned about their health, and they don't even have their have multivitamins and all those things at their home. So keeping a first aid box wherein we have all the basic necessity is something which we should start practicing. Everyone, I must say, in every Indian household, there should be a first aid box where we should have basic medicines.
Thanks.
Very good point. Thank you. Any other question from those of us who are in the Zoom call now? Because I think, Ankur, definitely, I know he has got a whole lot of experience working very directly with many cases. He has seen it up front and he has been relentlessly working at it. So if any of you would want to ask some question, that would really add to the value of this session. Samir, please go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks, Ankur, for all that you've mentioned and the work that you've done. I've known you for many years now, so I understand that helping others is your second nature, and that would have come normally to you. But one question that I have is, how did you manage to overcome your fear? Because myself, I can speak for myself and probably some other people as well who are sitting at home, who are watching the news, who are seeing what is happening. And of course, after the first instinct is worrying about yourself. Although you want to help, you can only end up like criticizing the administration and things like that, but you do not take the actual step of going out and helping others. So over the past month, I've seen you go out and donate plasma. I've seen you go out and give groceries to other people. How did you take the leap from deciding, okay, I want to help people, then actually taking the step? How did you overcome the fear?
So, Samir, frankly speaking, that is very difficult to answer. But I mean, it just come to me that if someone is in need and if there is anything I can do about it, then I must do. Because even a lot of friend of mine, they were just posting messages on WhatsApp and Facebook, and they were criticizing the government. And whenever I asked them that what is it they are doing, they said that okay, we are criticizing our government, and that is something which also requires a lot of effort. So I felt that if everyone will do the same, then it won't work that way. And at the same time, if I think about uh, uh, just the concept of empathy, if my family is in need and there is someone who can help me. So I'll wish that that person, because he has the resources or he can help. So uh, God, please, I mean, give him the courage and give him the confidence that he can come up and he can help my family. And so that's the only thing. I mean, in last 1 month or so, I never differentiated that whether it is my family or someone else's family. For me, it was all about us. It was all about one family, and the only thing I had in my mind was India. That's it. And yeah, but at the same time, I won't say that everyone should take the risk. Everyone should go to the roads or the streets and do all these donation drives or do all that activity. They have to take certain precaution, and they have to be very uh, I mean, use all the safety protocols. So the time I went for the this thing donation drive, I had gloves in my hand, I had mask, I had face shield, and all those things were there. So we were also taking care of it. We were sanitizing ourselves after every 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So these things were there. But yes, we have to. I mean, we have to be fearless. As it was, as I mentioned earlier, it was just like a warlike situation. And if we will be too scared, then it will be. I mean, it would be a completely failure, because at that time I had no hopes with. Sorry to make it political, with either the central government or the state government. I felt if we will wait for more time, the entire system might collapse. And I personally feel if the situation of Delhi improved, it was not because of the government intervention, but it was because of the intervention by a lot of NGOs and a lot of volunteers who were there to help each other.
So true. Absolutely. If you also share a little bit about network, because of course many of us are Toastmasters. Ankur is an ardent Toastmaster, so am I, and so are many of the people who are in the audience right now. And again, of course, I know that Toastmaster doesn't allow, like, so it's not a direct association, etc. But how, at the end of the day, we are all humans. It's not about what banner we come under, but it is about who comes under it. If you want to share a little bit of anecdote around how the brotherhood and the sisterhood and the fraternity has developed.
Sanjani, as you might be aware of this fact, in Toastmaster, no one calls me DTM or Ankur or Ankur. They call me Ankur Bhai, and that is just because even I treat them like my brothers and sisters. So if it is about Toastmaster, it is not just an organization where we go and learn about leadership and communication skills. For me, it is a family, and it is not about their Toastmaster related queries which I resolve, but even if they are facing any kind of personal challenge, I go to them and I try to have a word with them, because for me it is not a it is a bit difficult for me to make formal relations, that okay, we are restricted only to this thing only, and we will not be discussing anything which is not related to work. For me, it is about, if I'm forming a relation with someone, it has to be a heart to heart relation. If that person is in need, even if it is not related to Toastmaster or work, I should be there with that person. So that is something which works. And my mother often says कि जो जैसा होता है उसको वैसे लोग मिल जाते हैं. So if I am someone who is ready to help someone, so I got more than 100 people who are ready to help others as well. So it's not just me who was there, but there were a lot of people who were working much harder than me. So that's how we, I mean, created that network. And a lot of people came together and we decided. And frankly speaking, there were times as well when we passed with sarcastic comments as well to certain people, that it is not your certificate or your degree which will make you a leader. It is your actions which tells that whether you are a leader or not. So there were certain people who used to proclaim that, okay, we are leader, we are having this position in an organization or this or that. So I made certain sarcastic comments just to, I mean, ensure that, okay, because they have the resources, they are powerful, they should come and help others. So I made certain sarcastic comments as well, that your degrees or your certificates or your position won't make you a leader. It is the actions that you are taking in these testing time which will make you a leader. And yes, because Toastmaster, if I talk about Toastmaster, District 41 only, so it is comprised of Northern India, Eastern India, including Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. Being me being in Delhi, I had connections in Lucknow as well. whenever we got certain query for plasma requirement or for certain medicine in Lucknow. So we had around 40-45 people from Lucknow Toastmasters Club who would have, helped us. So that's how it works. So was the case with Kolkata, Orissa. Medha Hussain was there. So my friend, she is from Delhi, and she asked for help for her friend who is from Jharkhand, and they had no idea how they should get the plasma or injection. So because of she approached me and she asked that Ankur bhai, can you help me with this thing? So I said ki, okay, I know Medha who is from Jharkhand, and let me have a word with her. Maybe she will be able to help you. And she helped. So that's how our connection works. Similarly, District 98, which is comprised of southern India. So we got certain queries, and I requested them that this is a family member of a friend who lives in Delhi, but the family is in Maharashtra. So could you please help us with this injection? And there were people who helped us. So network is something which really works. As I said earlier, that 6 degree of separation thing. So if we make this network, if we make all these WhatsApp group, so there is a possibility that if not me, then there is a possibility that someone else in the group might be able to help the other person.
I think one of the major reminders for me was the 6 degrees of separation. Definitely have read about it, but now as you say it in relation and in context to today's situation in India, it does make a whole lot of sense to remember that. It gives a lot of assurance to all of us. Any other question? I mean, this is a good opportunity to get an inside view of somebody who is actually on the roads doing the stuff that we are we want help with. So
Sinjani, can I ask, this is Rajiv Bangari, first time.
Absolutely, please.
So
Yes.
good evening, Ankur and Sinjani. So Ankur, I would like to ask 3 questions. My name is Rajiv Bangari. I'm from Delhi only. So normally in this pandemic time or in this crisis moment, since what I heard is that you were yourself COVID positive at some point of time, if I heard it right. So and still you are doing such a tremendous work. So first of all, hats off to you. And was there at any point of time stoppings from within your family that you don't go for this work? Because I joined a bit late. So was there any stoppings from that end, or you got inspired? First, the number one point. The second point is that are you at any point of time, or is at this stage going to diversify your domain? The work you must be doing, you must be having Toastmaster network. I got that. So are you going to that expand a bit? Because this crisis moment, I think you are presently concentrated Delhi and NCR region. Are you going to expand it further? And third point, you told about your futuristic vision, working on education domain, which is a very broad domain. So any plans on that? So 3 points I want.
Okay. Sir, answering your first question, yes, my family would have stopped me, but frankly speaking, I didn't share much of my details with my family. When the moment I was working with the verification team, all the things I was operating from my room, and there was no one who were aware about that. What is it that Ankur doing in his room throughout the day? And when it was about donation drive, so yes, my family would have stopped me, because everyone's family would have stopped their kid. But though they are not here, I can say that I didn't share a lot of things which I was doing in these testing times, because I know because of their care and affection, they would have stopped me. And so yes, I didn't mention a lot of things to my family that okay, these are the things that I'm doing, because even they would have said that you have just recently recovered. I recovered on 15th or 16th of April, and from the next day I started working on it. So I didn't mention a lot of things to my family, and that was one of the reason how I was able to do all the stuff, because I know they would have said that Ankur, you should take at least 1 more weeks of rest, no phone call, no Zoom, no this, no that. So those things were there. That is one question. Second is about, sir, geography wise. So Delhi and Gurgaon is already working. Apart from that, there is one team for Uttarakhand as well. I know people, few of them are Toastmaster, and a lot of them who are non-Toastmaster as well. They are also working specifically for Dehradun geography, Haridwar, and other areas of Uttarakhand as well. So we have one Uttarakhand task force as well. Apart from that, we have one team who's currently looking for the rural India. So what I realized was that in my ancestral village, so over there situation was very worse, and at least one person was dying each and every day. So what we did was, we, because of the internet facility, we appointed, we booked one appointment with one of the doctor from Max Hospital, and we did the video conferencing of that doctor with the local doctors of that village. Because over there they don't, in the village area we don't have qualified doctors, but we call them as ved, or या फिर इस तरीके से मतलब we call them. So they are not, someone who are having good qualified degrees. So we arrange video calls as well, and then we send, because of scarcity of fund, we send them oximeters, thermometers, remote sensing thermometers, and basic facilities which were not there in the village. So these were the things which we did. Apart from that, we also arranged 2 or 3 oxygen cylinder, and also along with the oxygen kit. So these were the basic things which we have recently started in the rural village. That is about your second question. Now, so coming to your third question, yes, definitely. I might not be able to do it on full-time basis, but my main focus would be to ensure that we make post-pandemic India as much strong as possible, because it is not just a question about our generation. Even after our generation, the second generation which will be coming, it is our responsibility to ensure that they get the best kind of environment. So if it is about education, I'm still thinking about it. I don't have a concrete plan with me as of now, but that thing is for sure that yes, I'll be doing something about it.
So, Ankur,
Sorry,
so
go ahead.
shall I say? So well said, liked your candidness. Of course, you are doing for overall good humanity. That's okay. Even you don't tell to your family members. And I heard somewhere you said your mother said, किसी को मतलब उसको वैसा ही जना मिल जाता. She would have said yes in case you have said to her. The second thing is that great job. I wish to volunteer for Uttarakhand because it is being my hometown. So please kindly add me on. How can I connect you? I would like to work over there. Though I stays in Delhi, but I would like to get attached to that team and work in whatever manner I can. And third, even if you have started taking that baby steps, that futuristic vision, it will be done. So this is I want to say. Thank you.
I'll share, you can have my contact number from Sinjini, and she'll share it with you, and then we can connect over WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you very much.
Free to, I do not know how you got this Zoom link, but in whatever way we can reach out to you, or if you can drop a text to, like
Sinjini, I'm part of that Bulls and Bears club. Thank WhatsApp.
Right. Perfect.
So I know Mr. Ron. So I've seen some of their messages. I wanted to come the previous session, I think 2 or 3 weeks back of yours. I see some 10 posters were there. So this time I booked the slot for this time, and I'm lucky to be here.
Thank you so much, but do text me and I will provide you Ankur's number. Okay. And it would be, it gives me a very, very indirect and, humble satisfaction that at least one person, there is a connection that is getting made, and that has the possibility to multiply. And, we know that even if one life gets saved out of this connection you are making with Ankur, I would consider myself like having the privilege of being, being the common place. Ankur, as you were saying about, the doctor thing in your second answer that came to me, Dr. K.K. Agarwal, who recently, passed away, and he has done a huge body of work in and around this space. I was hearing one of these addresses he made recently where he said that doctors should see 100 patients at a time, because of course this is not a very specific thing, but this is like now the capacity is such that the arrangement has to be made to scale the access to medical resources, at least doctors. So that is one of the possibilities, especially in these remote places, as you already said, one Max doctor talking to the village doctors. But I do see that in the second phase and the third phase of these, now it is only the metro cities and there is still oxygen bed and there is still hospital. But in the second phase, I think if you have anything to share on that, or if you have any thoughts around that, it would be a direction to look at, to empower the village medical resources by help of, one-to-many mapping. Anyone else with any question you would want to ask Ankur?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm still in learning phase. I don't have any concrete plan or anything with me as of now. As I mean, you already know that this is something which I have started very recently, and I'm new to this field. I'm consulting a lot of people who are running their NGOs and who are into public service from last decade or so, and they are the ones who are guiding me. As I mentioned in my conversation in the very beginning itself, that if there are 100 people who are helping others, I was the 99th person, because there were at least, 98 or 99% who were doing much more than what I was doing. So I'm still a newbie or a learner. It's just that I wanted to do something, and that's the only thing I've been.
May we have many more learners like you, Ankur. We need learners at the moment. We need to unlearn the way we were developed. Don't help others because it's a given size of the pie, and it's a zero-sum game, and you have to protect yours, and by that we mean you have to stop others. And you have definitely learned and taught all of us a very different way of behaving in these times. So thank you so much. It has been my pleasure to host you, and I feel that your message should go out to many more people. And thank you for doing the work you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinchini. Thank you so much.